What's going on, YouTube? I just wanted to again thank you for taking time out of your schedules to look at my videos. And so the last one we talked about the United Nations and how that kind of messed me up. I had serious doubts about being one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and my wife asked me about what was going on, and I told her, and so she was kind of upset also, but I think she was in denial and she didn't want to believe what I was telling her, so she told me, why don't you ask your brother? Now, my younger brother has been serving at the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses in Brooklyn, New York. Jehovah's Witnesses call the world headquarters Bethel, meaning House of God. So my younger brother's been at Bethel since 2001, and he is what they now consider on the seniority ladder, or the corporate ladder. He's a Bethel elder there. And so she told me, why don't you ask your brother? And so I said, that's fine, I'll ask him. Maybe he knows something that I don't know, that I've already been looking at. So I sent them an email. I attached the letter from the United Nations, and I sent it to him. And he responds back the next day, and he says, hey Slick, before we get any further discussions about this, where does this information come from? And so I don't know why, but that kind of stuck in my head. Where does this information come from? So I ended up talking to him, and anyways, so that little saying, where does this information come from, it kind of stuck in my head, because in the early part of the 2000s, I think it was in 2002, I remember the Watchtower talked about a book regarding the neutrality of the first century Christians, and how they would remain neutral even to the face of death, even to the point of death, facing death. And so Jehovah's Witnesses use that in modern times, that they should remain neutral and not salute the flag and get involved with politics or governments. And I remember they quoted a book, and it sounded like the movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a pretty good movie. I like it. It's one of my favorite movies. So I just remember the Watchtower quoting a book, and it just reminded me so much about that movie, The Gladiator. And I wanted to look it up and just see what the book was all about, but I didn't do it. Well, last year in 2013, we were again at a Jehovah's Witness service. Jehovah's Witnesses service, they call those meetings. So we were at a Sunday meeting, and they start off with a 30-minute sermon that someone gives, and then that's followed by an hour-long question and answers session of the Watchtower magazine. And so how that is conducted is there's a conductor on stage, and he has a reader to read the paragraph. The conductor asks the question to the audience, and then the audience raises their hands and is able to state the answers from the paragraph, or recite one of the scriptures that are mentioned, or recite how they feel about this information. How does it make them feel good, or how does it apply in their life or in the ministry, or so forth. So this afternoon I was reading the Watchtower paragraphs, and I remember when I was preparing for that lesson, that book came up again, and it reminded me of Gladiator, and I could have sworn that was the same book about 12 years earlier or so. So when my brother said, where does this information come from, and now all these doubts, these serious doubts of the Witchtower are in my head now was the time for me to research that book. But before I go into that book by Daniel Mannix, entitled Those About to Die, I want to read this article. It is the 2011 yearbook of Jehovah's Witnesses. They produce these yearbooks every year, and usually it's about experiences from the last year all over the world, and then they highlight one or two countries and give us a history of Jehovah's Witnesses in that country and the things they've been going through and how we could keep them in our prayers and so forth. It's a touchy, good field book for Jehovah's Witnesses. But on page 9, there's an article entitled Tracing All Things with Accuracy. And I want to read this to you because I thought about this after I was thinking about that book, after I researched about that book. This is the first thing that popped into my head, this article. Tracing All Things with Accuracy, page 9, 2011 Yearbook of Jehovah's Witnesses. Jesus said that the faithful slave would be discreet in giving his domestics their food at the proper time. Jesus thus indicated that those who dispense this food would be conscientious, prudent, and discerning in providing spiritual food for the household of the faith. Matthew chapter 25, verses 45 through 47. In our time, Christ's anointed brothers use the writing department in Brooklyn, New York, to provide spiritual information in the form of magazines, brochures, books, and other printed and electronic material. This spiritual food, like physical food, has to be well prepared. Even Bible writers, who were directed by Holy Spirit, made sure that they recorded information that was thoroughly researched and accurate. Luke, for example, spoke to many eyewitnesses and traced all things from the start with accuracy. Luke chapter 1, verses 1 through 4. The writing department follows the pattern of tracing all things with accuracy. But where can reliable information be found? While the internet is a convenient and quick resource of vast amounts of information, our researchers do not rely on blogs or poorly documented web entries written by unidentified or unqualified persons. My footnote reads, that's what the Watchtower is, unidentified and unqualified. Back to the paragraph. For example, Wikipedia, an online encyclopedia, warns that some articles on its own sites contain significant misinformation, unencyclopedic contents, or vandalism, adding that users need to be aware of this. My footnote reads, well, Watchtower, you also contain significant misinformation. You contained unencyclopedic content or vandalism, and you need to warn your users, your readers, to be aware of this. Back to the paragraph. Thus, the writing department looks to standard reference works, articles written by recognized experts, and books produced by respected publishers. The writing department itself has a comprehensive library with thousands of books. Additionally, our researchers make use of nearby public and academic libraries. My footnote reads, the Watchtower makes use of the United Nations Library. Back to the paragraph. They can also obtain specialized material from other sources by means of interlibrary loans. One of the largest university libraries that our researchers use has some 5 million books, 58,000 periodicals, 5.4 million microforms, and thousands of electronic databases. The writing department also maintains a large archive of clippings, experiences, and historical information that is consistently being updated with material from local sources as well as from our branch offices around the world. Of course, it is as Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 12 reminds us, to the making of many books there is no end. Even reputable sources may contain false information. So how do we check for quality, accuracy, and reliability? Take, for example, the following statement in the brochure, "Was Life Created?" printed by Jehovah's Witnesses. It mentions about spider silk being one of the strongest materials on the earth. This brochure, "Was Life Created?" quotes, "If enlarged to the size of a football field, a web of dragline silk 0.4 inches thick with strands 1.6 inches apart could stop a jumbo jet in flight." End quote. Although the source of this statement was a reputable science magazine, it was not the original source, and the original source was ambiguous. Therefore, it became necessary to contact the researcher who made the original statement and check how he came to his conclusion. Our researchers also had to find the formula and the information needed to calculate for themselves what impact a jumbo jet might have on a spider web the size of a football field. Many hours of research and meticulous calculations eventually confirmed the accuracy of this astounding piece of information. At times, though, even a seemingly reputable source may fail to corroborate details adequately. For example, Gandhi has been quoted as saying as his ashram, religious retreat, to Lord Irwin, quote, "When your country and mine shall get together on the teachings laid down by Christ in his Sermon on the Mount, we shall have solved the problems not only of our countries, but those of the whole world." However, a thorough investigation of this statement revealed that there is no evidence that Lord Irwin ever visited Gandhi at his ashram, raising unanswered questions about where, when, and whether Gandhi made his statement. Hence, our publications do not use this particular quote anymore. Or you may have read about the incident involving Sir Isaac Newton and a model of the solar system. Reportedly, a visiting atheist asked, "Who made it?" Newton answered, "Nobody." The atheist replied, "You must think I'm a fool." Newton is then said to have told the atheist that his puny imitation of the much grander solar system proves that there has to be a designer or maker. As appealing as this account may be, historical sources as well as Newton scholars and biographers cannot provide evidence that this conversation really occurred. Interestingly, the earliest references to this incident appeared in the early 1800s using not Newton's name, but the name of German scholar Athanasius Kircher. I probably butchered that name, but I tried my best. Consequently, our writing department no longer uses this account in our publications. I'm skipping 2 paragraphs, and this is how it ends. In summary, the writing department insists on using only material that is accurate and truthful, even regarding seemingly insignificant details. As a result, the faithful slave can consistently supply spiritual food that brings honor to the God of truth, Jehovah. So, what do I think about this, tracing all things in accuracy? It's a bunch of garbage. They don't trace all things with accuracy. And I'm going to read some stuff to my letter that I left to the elders of my congregation when I had my judicial committee. And I wanted to talk about Daniel Mannix, but I didn't get the chance to. So, give me a second here. They said I was going to be able to talk about everything that was concerning me about the religion, but I really didn't get a chance to. So here's what I wrote about Daniel Mannix. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society uses questionable authors and material to support our beliefs. Please research the book Those About to Die by Daniel Mannix. You can read many reviews of this book on Amazon.com. Also, please research about the author of this book, what kind of person he is, and what else he has written about. Would this be a book you would read with your mates or your children? Would you take a copy of this book to the Kingdom Hall and quote from it in a talk to support our ideas? Well, if you look at some of the reviews on Amazon.com, you'll see that this book is not appropriate for Christians. This book goes on to talk about how it goes into gory details about the sheer brutality of Roman society and the Coliseum. It goes into these gory details such as public executions, throwing women and children to animals to be eaten alive, the training of professional human killers and professional animal killers, gambling on who would die first in a fight to the death match, public sexual orgies including homosexuality and bestiality, where women were punished by being raped by animals. It also tells the reader how they trained animals to engage to have sex with humans. So this is just a sick and sadistic book. And I want to tell you how many times the Watchtower quoted this author in this book. It's 13 times. So if you got a pen, I'll try and pause between each one so you can write these references down. The first one, the 1968 June 1st Watchtower, pages 351 and 352, paragraph 8. Number 2, The Awake, December 8th, 1972, pages 18 through 23, paragraph 20. Number 3, The Awake, December 8th, 1975, pages 3 through 4, paragraph 6. Number 4, The Watchtower, August 5th, 1975, pages 493 through 498, paragraph 20. Number 5, The Awake, December 22nd, 1979, under the subheading, Is All Disco Bad? Now this one in particular, I don't believe it's talking about Daniel Mannix in his book because it's about disco, so I'm sure they're talking about a group or a musician by the name of Mannix. But it was interesting to see how they thought disco would be the demise of a Christian, and anyone listening to disco was going to immediately have sex. So it's just kind of amazing how much things change with Jehovah's Witnesses, even over 30 years. Number 6, the brochure, Jehovah's Witnesses and Education, printed in 1983, under the chapter Flag Salute, Anthems, and Voting. Number 7, The Watchtower, May 1st, 1983, pages 12 through 17, paragraph 8. Number 8, the book Reasoning from the Scriptures, printed in 1989, pages 269 through 276, under the topic Neutrality. Number 9, The Watchtower, January 15th, 1993, pages 25 through 30, paragraph 21. Number 10, the book Insight on the Scriptures, Volume 1, printed in 1988, pages 1195 and 1196, under the topic Incense. Number 11, The Watchtower, September 15th, 2002, pages 21 through 25, paragraph 8. The book Learn from the Great Teacher, printed in 2002, 2003, page 146. And lastly, number 13, The Watchtower, January 15th, 2013, pages 7 through 11, paragraph 16. So discounting the one on Disco, that would be at least 12 times from 1968 to 2013 that the Watchtower traced all things with accuracy and basically copy and pasted the same paragraph out of this book. Keep in mind where this book came from. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses are very paranoid about the origins of things, especially if they have pagan origins. And I want to show you an illustration out of the What Does the Bible Teach book that Jehovah's Witnesses use. We use an illustration to help those we study the Bible with as to why the importance of things come from should be really, we should look at where things come from. Whether it be holidays or anything else, we should see their origins. And we use this picture. See that picture? The caption above it says, "Would you eat a piece of candy picked up from the gutter?" And we have the picture of the lollipop. And basically we use this picture to tell our Bible students that exactly what my brother told me. Where does this information come from? And so Jehovah's Witnesses, the writing department, they have been quoting since 1968 from a sick and sadistic book. It's an encyclopedic resource. It's from not an unknown author, but not a respected author, and he's certainly not a historian. And just another note on the historian deal. Not one reference, Watchtower Awake book or brochure, talks about Daniel Mannix as being an author. But when it comes to the children's book in 2003, Learn from the Great Teacher, well, they call him a historian. So when it comes to an adult book or brochure that all the Jehovah's Witnesses use, they just call them by name. But when it comes to a child's book, well, then it's okay to call him an historian, because the children will never figure out that this guy is a sideshow freak circus guy that reads books and writes nonfiction books about history, and he writes violent books as well. So that was my rant on Daniel Mannix, and it's really sickening. Watchtower, you need to stop quoting from this dude and his book. I mean, who would want to read stuff like that? Why would you even want to quote from that garbage? It just blows my mind that y'all have been doing that for 13 years. And I know that the Watchtower has not traced this stuff out. They've copy and pasted all things with accuracy. And so it just really, it ticks me off that they claim that they put all this research in stupid spider webs and Gandhi and Sir Isaac Newton's, that they could use this to really verify on things that they're publishing and quoting from others. And so as I was researching about Daniel Mannix on the internet, of all places Wikipedia, I found out that he wrote a biography on a Satanist by the name of Aleister Crowley. So I did a word search on Google to find out about if does Daniel Mannix have occult ties. Enter, and all these websites, spiritistic and occult websites, starts popping up, and so it was really difficult for me to find one. But I was reading the captions on these different websites. And a couple of times I saw the name Johannes Grieber mentioned with the Watchtower. And it just baffled me that I typed in Daniel Mannix and this other name comes up, Johannes Grieber. And so that led me to my search on Johannes Grieber. I did a word search on him. And there was, again, a lot of spiritistic and occult websites that popped up. A lot of German websites. So there wasn't much that I could look at or that I wanted to look at. But I did see a connection with Johannes Grieber and the Watchtower. As a matter of fact, one of those websites said, "We thank you, Jehovah's Witnesses, for championing an occult Bible." And when I read that, my eyes were wide open and my jaw dropped to the floor, and I was like, what in the world? Where do they get that from? So I went to my 2013 Watchtower Library CD. Jehovah's Witnesses make those every year, and it's a comprehensive library of their publications back to the 50s. And so I started my search on Johannes Grieber, and that's going to be my next video. So again, I thank you for watching this video for the last 27 minutes. This was a little bit longer than the ones I had before, but I thank you. I hope you appreciate it. Give me a thumbs up, a like if you like this video, and I encourage you to please post your comments, and I'll try and respond to those as fast as I can. I've got a lot of things going on, a lot of research, a lot of reading that I'm doing. I'm trying to keep up with these videos as well, but I'll try and come out with the Johannes Grieber information coming soon to a YouTube theater near you.